how long can you actually play in this band, until you're like reality sets in and you got to pay your bills. That show, like that one to me, because of the experience, because of like breaking through, getting in there, the timing, the song that they decided to play was such a great opening song. Danzig 95, Marilyn, Manson, Korn. Nothing probably will ever beat it. What was I saying? Oh yeah, so I was listening to Mudvayne, and it's like one of those type of bands, because there's so many bands, dude, that you always hear about. Like I hear about people talking about, but I'm just too lazy to like go listen to them because there's just so many bands. So how could you know what I mean? You get to that where you just don't even listen to what people tell you. So I always heard Mudvayne in the background all the time. I always see their merch and all that. And then I think it was because you know how you get Spotify and you listen to an album. What I really love about those things is that when it finishes the album, it'll just randomly play songs that are like the stuff that you're listening to. Mm-hmm. It'll give you recommendations and it'll give you like a playlist and it'll play. And sometimes you'll be in the background and you're just like, oh wow, I like this song. What is this? You ever get that feeling where like, I like immediately like seconds after I'm like, I already like this song. I'm gonna have to study. I'm gonna have to figure out what band this is. So it was Mudvayne, and then I went out and I think their album's called Lost and Found. And
2005.
I was listening to that album. Dude, the album is a great album. Every song almost is good. And I was like, damn, I can't believe all those years went by and I didn't even know them.
Mudvayne, huh?
They already broke up. Like they're not even together anymore. You know what I mean? They broke up. They're not even together anymore. And here I am. I just barely discovered them. Another band that I just discovered is Static X. Well, I already knew about them, but I never really cared. I never liked them. I just never was into them. Is Static X.
I remember Static X because that guy had one of the dumbest haircuts and beards.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he got a persona because he did it for marketing. You know what I mean? He had to do. My band Trench. I don't know if I ever told you about my band, my previous band. We played with them, like at the Troubadour one time. So I mean, they were like on the circuit. They were around. So I was very familiar with the band. I've heard of them. I've heard of their music, but I never really got into them. I wasn't into that type of music because they got like a certain music that's kind of industrial.
Yep.
And metal, and I didn't really care for it, but now it's like I listen. I think some of it's genius.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I like it. It's just one of those bands, dude. It's just I didn't give it a respect for back then. And then Wayne Static, the singer, he died. Like he's died back in 2014.
Oh, really? I did not know that. Let me see right now.
Yeah, he polydrug overdose.
Well, that doesn't surprise me if that's true. Yeah, 2014. Wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, he died. And the funny thing is when we played with that band back in the 90s, he invited me and the other guys to his house. He said, hey, come out, let's go hang out and party. You know what I mean? I didn't go. I had a chance to go hang out with him and party at his house, and I didn't go because it's just like I don't feel like going over there. But yeah, he was a totally nice guy. And then when I found out like 2 years ago he died, dude, I was like completely taken back. I was like, I knew this guy. Like I talked to this guy, and I'm like, oh man, dude, really? He's been gone, and then you find out he's been gone for 4 years. Like, wow, oh man, because you're not going to hear it from pop culture and mainstream. Nobody talks about it. You're not going to read about it in the news. No, because he's just in one of those bands where you have to be a part of that scene to know.
You needed to read Kragan or something.
Or you got to read YouTube and then hear the comments go, oh, he was a good guy. Past tense. People start talking about him in past tense. And then you're like, what happened to him?
Yeah,
dude, he's gone. Huh?
Yeah, it's like you like listen to him on, YouTube or whatever. And then you read the comments and it said rip.
Dude, then you're just like, oh no. Oh man. You know what I mean? And then I guess he was married to some porn star. And then she killed herself like 2 years later.
Oh. masterpieces.
Can you believe that?
Well, it's just like going back to Spotify and how you discovered it. It's funny because earlier at the gym, I wasn't necessarily I was listening to Spotify, but I was on Pandora and it switched to I I was just into punk stuff, and it had me listening to one like AFI stuff, old AFI punk. And
Oh
it was
yeah.
Mhm.
You're speaking my language.
and it was funny because I was listening to A Single Second, and I think that's when Nick 13 is on, right? If you know.
He's on the third one. I think he's on the shut your mouth and open your eyes.
Mm-hmm. I was like, man, I love A Single Second, and then I was like, what else songs do I like from AFI Punk? And I'm like, oh yeah, Rolling Balls and stuff like that.
So okay, here's the thing with the AFI, dude. Their albums, like their first 4 albums, they're all drastically sounding different.
Yeah.
Like the very first album sounds like the most roughest, rawest street punk, which is really good. It's got the Reservoir Dogs parody like album cover, and there's some good songs on it.
I thought that isn't that Answer That and Stay Fashionable.
Yeah, you're right. Answer That and Stay Fashionable. What did I say?
You said the first album.
Yeah, Answer That and Stay Fashionable. That's their first album.
Let me look here.
Yeah, it is. 100%. It's their first, and then their second album. So that album sounds the most rawest, right? It's the most straight up rawest, most punkest album that they've ever come up with. And then the second one, Very Proud of You.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like it's like a continuance of that, except I would say it's like they're discovering their sound. You know what I mean? Like they've been around, they've been playing for a little bit, and now they're kind of like figuring themselves out. And then but it's still similar to Answer That, Stay Fashionable. The recording's a little better, I think. Songs are pretty much the same. As a matter of fact, there's some songs that are re-recorded that were on Answer That and Stay Fashionable and put on Very Proud of You. So,
like you said,
pretty much similar. Huh?
Rolling Balls is on the Very Proud of You.
Is it? There's a lot of songs on there, so I don't really remember.
Vinyl bonus track. Yeah.
There's a lot of songs on there, so I don't remember all the song titles. But they came out there, and then they went on tour with Sick of It All, and they're Sick of It All. I've never heard of them, but they're a hardcore band, more like New York hardcore, and there's a certain style to that, right? And so they toured with them, and then they changed their style to sounding more like that. Everybody knows that, but I mean, like that, they changed their style pretty drastically, in my opinion. I mean, it went from that street punk to like more heavier, like kind of stoppier. I don't know how to choppier type of like rhythms, like that hardcore stuff.
Because then you got Black Cells in the Sunset '99, and then 2000 got the Art of Drowning. Those kind of how would you categorize that? That was like still punk, but yet it was like more like a.
Okay, well, Black Sails in the Sunset. That's when their original guitar player left the band after That Stay Fast. No, I'm sorry. Shut Your Mouth and Open Your Eyes. Then then Black Sails came out after that, right? I'm just going off my memory. I'm not looking it up on that. And then Black Sails, they got this new guitar player that was Davey Havoc's, like, I guess he's like his college buddy or something like that. They knew each other.
You're right, Jade Puget.
Jade Puget. They got him, and he was like they were buddies.
Yeah.
He came in, and dude, I remember I was in Hawaii with my buddy Justin, who he works for Golden Voice. That's another story. I was with him, and I remember being with him, dude. And I remember like when it was coming out, the date that was getting released, because I was a huge AFI fan at that time. Still am. And I remember I'm like, dude, let's go down the tower, because there's a tower in Hawaii. I'm like, dude, let's go down there. I want to buy this album. It's coming out today. So we went down there. I got Black Sails. I saw it. Loved the cover. I love the style of the cover. I just like it, the cartoony looking thing. That was great. And then I put that on, dude. I swear that album, dude. It's just one of those albums. There's probably like a handful my whole life. They gave me like, wow, this is the perfect album. Because it was like Shut Your Mouth, but it was like even more polished. But there's a different guitar player. It's not even the same guitar. It's like, this is like another, where did this guy come from? Who is this guy? You know what I mean? Like, whoa, look what he can do. Like, what's his background? Like, where did he come from? And he put out Black, because if you heard of Black Sails, you heard of Black Sails, right? That album is like, when I first heard that album, I just thought it was the perfect album. And I'm like, I cannot believe this is their best album. This is like, they've been going through the waves of figuring themselves out, right? This is it. This is their sound. This is perfect. I thought it was a great album. And then they came out with Art of Drowning. And then it was like, all right, I still like it. It's good. It's kind of getting a little more popular now.
And, well, it's funny that you say that, because I'm coming 99, 2000. I'm 10 years old in those times. And you had two camps. You had the people who liked Black Sails, and you had the people that are the Art of Drowning fans.
It's a Metallica effect. You know?
Yeah.
But it's like because you have two demographics that are completely different people. You know what I mean? And yeah, so it's like do people say post Art of Drowning? Because that's kind of like the area where they really drastically changed. Because after Art of Drowning, they came out with that what the hell is that album?
Sing of the Sorrow, 2003.
Yeah, it's got the Phoenix song or whatever. It's Sing of Sorrow. Yeah. That's where they changed. To me, that's like that era, that time right now is when they completely jumped the shark.
That's when they went like pop, like
they went poppy. Completely pop.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming them.
Mainstream pop, I guess.
That's fine. They went pop. I don't blame them. Like a lot of people get bitter sometimes. You know, I understand. I'm a musician. I get it. You know what I mean? Like, you want to try different things. You know, you're tired of playing the same sound. You grow out of it, I guess you can say. I hate to say growing out of it like a derogatory term, but you evolve.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And so they feel like they evolved, I'm sure. And so they came out with that. I didn't like the album. I thought the songs were probably good, but it's just not my genre. And then they started even going more popular after that. Then they came out with that one with the bunny or the rabbits, whatever.
December Underground.
Yeah, they came out with that album, and I was already lost. I was like checked out.
That was when that's the the time, and no one gets mad, but that was like the time with like My Chemical Romance, The Used, like kind of like the early goth, the emo goth kids, like all had the albums on their book bags and shirts, with like it was like you're either a My Chemical Romance kid, a Used kid, or AFI. But this is when they only thought AFI had two albums. Like, no, but the real kids, the real music kids knew of AFI, the punk days. Yeah.
I mean, that was me. You know what I mean? The first song I ever heard from AFI the very first album was Very Proud of You. A guy from work had it. The mail guy, he had it he had a truck and he used to play it. And I'm like, dude, this is rad, man. I really like this music, Not coming from a metal background.
Well, well, for me, I was introduced from AFI through my cousin, and the first album I listened to was, quite sadly, the single "Sing the Sorrow," and then I was listening. I listened. I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. Very. It's like that was the time I was like gothing music. It was kind of cool, kind of goth style. And then December Underground came out. Okay. And then I started going backwards. And
that's very interesting, because I didn't have that experience with this band, dude. So you were going backwards from that point, and then you started realizing, well, they're getting really raw, more heavier, more faster, like, right?
Well, it's funny because it's like two different bands.
And it really is. Especially the now is probably about the most contrasting time ever. As far as if you take their first album and the last album they probably just put out, you can't even tell it's the same band, dude.
Well, yeah, and apparently they came out with a album in 2021 called Bodies. Never heard of it. I might give it a try here later this week just to support AFI, see how they sound.
Yeah.
So far, it's not looking good on the metric scale.
Yeah, it's we forgot to mention. I was thinking, but we forgot to mention the EP that they put out. They put out an EP at the time of Black Sails, after Black Sails, before, I think it was before Art of Drowning. I can't remember, but they put out the All Hallows EP.
Oh yeah, with the pumpkin on it. I remember that one.
Now that album was awesome, dude. When I first heard that first song, dude, when they popped out with that song, and I think if
they had a cover of a Halloween.
Awesome EP, dude. I think it's a Misfits cover song. But here's the thing about that, dude. About that time, I think that out of all the punk bands, they probably had the most intense shows. You know, for the audience. I mean, you want to talk about like the audience being very like involved, like the energy, you know, between the audience members and the band members at that time was huge, dude. The shows were highly intense. Like the whole, like everybody's singing along, dude. Like loud, dude. You can't even hear the band members, dude. You know what I mean?
What year is this?
This is probably like late 90s.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, early 2000, late 90s more so. And that's the time where I thought like the shows, and I think a lot of it has to do with like their marketing. Like you know, like when you're a band, and my band did that too. The band I was in, Backside, did the same thing. They backup vocals, really stressed a lot on the backup vocals, because backup vocals is what's going to get the crowd to interact with you. That is the key right there. If you could think of good background vocals and the lyrics connecting with your audience, you know what I mean? Like you got to connect with you got to know your audience, you got to connect with them, and the type of things that they're, you know, your everyday things, you know, the troubles of life, whatever troubles your life, challenges in life, and that helps too. But the backup vocals is just so important to getting the interaction, to getting the intensity of your music, man. Right. Of like, you know what I mean? And having good backup interacting with the lead vocals is very important. And so AFI did it very well.
Well, it's funny that, to kind of circle back what I was saying, like how I was listening to music earlier today, and A Single Second came on, and yeah, it has really good backup vocals. And like I said, I truly think, I'm trying to find here if it was.
That's not the one with Nick 13 singing backup vocals.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like, it was that Nick 13 on the background? I believe so. I'm trying to find right here on the track listings for it. But yeah, like,
I know how the rhythm goes, dude, but I'm not gonna sing it, dude. But
yeah, yeah, no. I think Nick 13 has an awesome voice, and you can really hear it.
Dude, you know, and I got to see them play at that era, dude. I was at the Roxy, and they came out with Shut Your Mouth and Open Your Eyes at that era, and I got to see them play. And what's so great is that, especially with all bands, is that they don't have all of their new material to play, because they have Shut Your Mouth and everything before that, and that's all you're gonna hear. You know what I mean? So I got to see them there, and I got to hear all the old songs. And at that time, I remember them coming up on stage. I was like right in the front. I was a young kid, and they came out with you know, Shut Your Mouth, how it sounded, dude. It was like probably one of the raddest shows I've ever been to, man. It was just so powerful. Besides, probably like I don't know. It's probably like in the top 3 favorite shows I've ever been to.
Okay.
First show ever, Danzig, dude. Danzig with Marilyn Manson and Korn. At the Universal Amphitheater, 1995.
Oh.
I got to see Danzig and Korn. This is when Korn was like really hitting it popular.
That's when right? Follow the Leader or not yet? Let me see. 95.
Look it up.
95.
Yeah, this is 1995. I forgot what the tour was called. I have a poster of the tour.
Family Values. The Family Values tour. Let's see.
Yeah, I can't remember that. Is it no? But it was Danzig was the headliner.
Oh, okay.
Danzig's the headliner. It was Marilyn Manson was just barely becoming popular.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You know what I mean?
He had that one. He had that with the Manson family cover, right? It was like a bunch of claymations on it.
Yeah. I think that's their first album. Yeah, I mean, they're a good band. I mean, I liked it. I like some of their stuff. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of them, but I mean, they got their thing going on.
Okay, so the first three, Korn, self-titled album, Korn, 1994, and 96 had Life is Peachy.
Yeah, so I saw them before that. So they only had so they only had their first album at that time, 95?
Yeah, because...
Yeah, see, I got to see them when they just played that album.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I got to see them, and they had just come out, and they were new, and they had a fresh sound. They brought a fresh sound to the table that nobody else ever had. You know what I mean? That bass player with the way he played bass and how low his strings were, and how they're so low that the bass sounded clingy.
That wasn't
scraping the neck, huh?
Was that Head?
No, Head's the guitar player.
Okay.
No, Fieldy.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Yeah, so when Fieldy played, his strings are so low that when he's playing, the strings are like bouncing off the neck. You know what I mean? They're flapping,
mm-hmm.
and it gave this new sound that nobody. It's new metal. They called it. They ended up labeling new metal, but back then they didn't even call it new metal. Like it was. I don't even think they came up with new metal till like way later. You're like, we didn't even know what the hell.
Yeah, I didn't hear that term until like Limp Bizkit, Linkin Park were already up. Was it like Power Man 5000? Were out, like stuff like that.
Yeah, but that term was not even around back then.
No, I don't remember that term.
You know what I mean? They just came up with that. They didn't know what it was. Kind of like this rap metal mesh sounding, which I guess you could give credit to Run DMC and Aerosmith for coming up with like kind of like the first originators of that collage between rap and metal, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so I saw that concert in 95.
Well, okay, well then Manson, Marilyn Manson, his album Portrait of American Family was 94.
Yeah, so that they just came out with that album.
Yeah.
So I got to see those two bands at their peak, at they're just getting popular, like at their very prime, in their prime.
Mm-hmm.
And then Danzig being just Danzig. The Danzig 4. It just came out, I think it was. Danzig 4. And let me tell you, man, I'm really big on like to hear what bands decide to open the show with, like what song.
Mm-hmm.
It's a freaking art, right? So Danzig decides to play Brand New God. I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday. They played Brand New God, and I mean, this is the way the song goes. You have to know the song, but it was just a great show because I was able to. I had seating, but like I don't know if you've ever been at Universal Amphitheater. Back then, they had like this pit little area, general admission. And there was like, and then you get in there, and it's like each aisle had like a guard, like an aisle, like an usher sitting there, and so you couldn't get through there unless you had tickets there. But by the time the show, like the lights turned off and everybody started turning on, you know how everybody had back then had like the lighters, like, and everybody, you could hear the crowd louding. Man, you're so amped up as a kid. You're like, screw it, I'm gonna rush. I'm going down there. So everybody started rushing those aisles. And those ushers couldn't grab everybody. They couldn't get everybody. There was too many people. When Danzig came on, you could hear the mics going and the guitars started stringing. People went nuts, dude. And they started rushing the stage. You know what I mean? And I jumped over the railing. There's like an opening each, and then there's railing, and then there's an opening. There's railing. Well, I jumped over the railing. I got caught. The guy threw me back. They didn't kick me out. They just threw me back. And then I tried it again, and this time I got in. And then it was just like right there. Glenn Danzig was like probably a couple feet away from me, dude. And I was just right there rocking out. Really. And he was just coming out. He's 5'5", you know, short guy. And he was coming out. And it was Josh, it was like the most perfect, because there's this guitar part that comes in right out there, like right when I got there. And John Christ does this whammy bar thing. and it was just like, wow. It's still today my favorite. I've been to like a lot. I've been a pretty good amount of shows, dude, in my lifetime. Over 100. You know, probably with my band playing. You know what I mean? And then all the other bands. I've probably been at probably 125, maybe shows. And that show, like that one to me, because of the experience, because of like breaking through, getting in there, the timing, the song that they decided to play was such a great opening song. By far, dude, the best show. I don't know if you have your best show, but that's my best show, man. Danzig, 95, Marilyn, Manson, Korn. Nothing probably will ever beat it. Because I'm young. I mean, I got to be 17 too. You know, that also counts. How old was I? 95. That was like 17.
So, in your realm, you brought up that. I guess it's something I never really thought of, but that's kind of a cool thought. You said that. How does a band start a show? Sometimes it's like always like some kind of like fancy, orchestra or whatever, just an opener, an eye opener, an attention getter. But then you said it's the first song that impresses you of how kind of the show dictates following that song, right?
Absolute. It's just like the intro of a movie.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, it's just you're performing live versus the movie being pre-recorded. That's the difference. But you're presenting something, and the opener is very important to choose the opening song. You know what I mean? Like when I played with my band, we chose our opening song. Like it's not arbitrary. You know what I mean? We don't just think of it on a whim. You know what I mean? It's something we really put a little bit of thought into. We're like,
okay. So see, as just a simpleton, as someone who's never been in the music industry, someone who's been just a handful of concerts opposed to 100. I've never noticed that, and I guess that's a pretty cool thought. What goes in the thought of like, okay.
Well, I mean, I can't tell you what other people do. All I can tell you is what my band did. And we like going on tour, right? I mean, we would have our little posters, like we'd have like these 11 by 17 posters that we would pass out, and we flip the backs where it's the blank back, and we would write songs, and we'd be like, okay, what do we want to start? We'd have a bunch of songs that we would perform like we're comfortable playing, and we'd be like, okay, what do we want to play first? We'd be in the van and be like, well, let's come out and play this song. It's very powerful. It's a really good opener. You know what I mean? It really gets the crowd going really quick. We're not gonna play a song that's, like a more mellow song. We want to get something that's hitting hard, hitting fast right away, bro. So we'll play that, and then we'll go through the song list and start writing in, right? You know what I mean? And then we think about all the songs, and we put it together. Here's our set list, and then we put it on the ground, man. You know what I mean? And then the kids take them afterwards. They steal them. But that's thought of all that stuff. We thought about all those things, the set list, just like how you think about the track, which is like kind of like an old outdated thing, track listings on albums. It's a lost art. Back then, you know what I mean? You really think about what songs you want to come in first, okay? Because you're thinking about the album as like a one, like if you were listening to the album like on one session, you want it to groove in a certain way. You know what I mean? Which you don't get now anymore with all the internet stuff. But you're thinking about, okay, we're going to play this song. It's going to be heavy. It's a good opener. Then we're going to bring it down a little bit. And then we're going to play a more rocking song. And so you're thinking about like the whole thing as a whole.
I do agree with you that it is a lost art, but some point in that, do you think contracts have to deal with something like that? Because it'd be like I can't even think of a band, so I'm just going to say just like a generic band. They have a very popular song that they want to put on the, let's just say on the movie soundtrack.
Like a one-hit wonder?
Well, it'd just be like contract negotiations. I don't want to be number one. I want to be number 6. I don't want to be last. I want to be 2 away from the last. Do you think that?
Well, what do you mean? You mean like when you're playing a show, like performing?
Well, you're just talking about like, like motion soundtracks, right?
Yeah.
I was just thinking.
Oh, you mean like Well, I think whoever produces it is the one who has the last say. I don't think the artists really have much of a say so when it comes to stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I don't know how that works, but I would think that the company who's producing the movie, those guys probably have a say so on this track. Because I never really thought about soundtrack title order, because it's a collage of a bunch of bands.
But going back to what you were saying about how you make your own set list, right? For live music, I guess. What's the difference? Like, how would you create it?
How would we go about the thought process?
Yeah, how would you do that?
Well, I think our singer would just mostly majority of the time would be the one who takes the lead on that, and then he might ask for our thoughts about it, but he would be like the one who, in our case, he would be the one who would go through it, and then we would trust him that he's using his best judgment to put up a good listing. So he would just go through it, write it, and we would be watching him, and we would just kind of collaborate. I don't know. It was kind of like I don't know. There was no science behind it, which is kind of like, oh well, I think that would be good. I mean, because we come out randomly, but we had it was organized. It was
it's because I guess you can tell how like previous shows you can see of what song hit better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Or we play a song, and then we wouldn't get a response, right? And so we're not playing that song anymore. Take it off our list. Take it off our whole set list. You know what I mean? That doesn't work really well. And the band did do that. You know what I mean? There was a couple songs like, we didn't get much of a response, and then we didn't play it. You know what I mean? Because we're trying to perform. Obviously, we want to put a good show, and we want people to enjoy themselves. So we're going to read the crowd. We're going to read the room. So we do read the room. I think musicians do that all the time.
Well, it's funny because it's like, you look at concerts now and it's like oldie people, and it'd be like, so-and-so is only playing hits from these 3 albums. And I love when they do that. It's like, all right, well, I guess like your 5 other albums after these albums didn't really hit the mark.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of bands like that have 1 great album, maybe 2 great albums, maybe 3 great albums. And then all of the rest of them are just, could be for various reasons, could be for a lot of reasons. Could be a lot of times. I mean, if you think about it, especially with punk, you're not making much money doing this stuff.
Oh.
Okay. So how long can you actually play in this band, until you're like reality sets in and you got to pay your bills. So you have to really commit to this stuff. You're not really making much money. You got to commit to this stuff. So that's why a lot of band members and then they get families, you have kids and all that, you get the wife. And so in a punk band, especially in that genre, because there's not much money being made because the pie is a lot smaller, there's less people, there's less demographic, people that listen to music, and then the prices of the shows are so much cheaper. So, the chances of band members staying together in punk bands is a lot less. There's constant members being changed, constant lineup changes. And so what happens is with music, you have to think of it like this. When guys come together and they write a song, and it's a together thing, it's a collaboration. You're bringing all your styles together into one thing. So the best type of analogy that I can use is it's like cooking food. Each guy's the recipe, and so everybody puts their recipe in, and then you come up with a dish. And so when everybody's constantly moving around, it's just not going to, some members are just more prevalent, the recipe, and it just changes too much. The music changes too much. And then maybe at some point, it'll just be the singer that's the original member of the band now, There's bands out there, dude, check this out. There's bands out there like this band called The Autumn Offering. They're like on Victory Records, hardcore band. Nobody in the band is original. Yeah. Everybody in there is a replacement. And they're carrying on the name. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like usually there's always one original guy that's left that keeps the thing going. Well, there's times where there's been bands where there's been nobody if it's original anymore. It's crazy.
I'm trying to think of who else, but yeah, that.
There's a band called The Autumn Offering.
Okay.
And there's no original guys in that band. I think the singer was the last guy who left or something, maybe.
You know, that happens all the time. Like, obviously, my favorite, but it's just like, you know, obviously, Sebastian Bach and Skid Row. You know, they kicked him out or whatever, and then that's Skid Row is not Skid Row without, you know, you can't have Sebastian, you can't not have him in there.
No, I mean, he's one of those guys that's just like, you know, like Lane Staley from Alice in Chains, you know
That
what I mean?
one, yep, you can't.
He's irreplaceable, or like, what's his name from Stone Temple Pilots, Scott Weiland.
Mm-hmm.
It's like these guys have left their mark so strong in that band. It's their signature. It's just that's another thing to talk about too. That's a big deal. You know, it's like Alice in Chains. They got a new singer, right? He's been with them for like 12 years now, right? As a fan, you can't look at it as like, oh, he's replacing Lane. No, it's like he's bringing something different to the table. He's got his own sound. I don't know if maybe it's not as good as Lane, you know what I mean? But don't look at it as like a sport.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a sport. It's an art. He comes different. He sounds different. You know what I mean? You just got to go in with an open mind.
Okay, so you're saying, you know, looks different, sounds different, but what about like people that look and sound similar, like who's that guy from AC/DC? What's his
Brian Johnson?
Yeah, well, who did he replace?
Oh, what was the guy's name? He sounds just like him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, for the longest time, I thought he was the original.
Yeah.
But he's not.
Mm-hmm.
He's a replacement.
Yep.
That's crazy, you know, because I mean, I would have never thought. And talk about.
Was it Malcolm Young?
Malcolm Young is a guitar player.
Oh yeah. I'm trying to see. Yeah, I can't see.
Matter of fact, I think Malcolm. One of them died. I think Malcolm Young.
Well, it says right here, vocalist. The first one, the foundation was David Evans.
Yeah, it wasn't even. Yeah, I mean, the whole time I thought it was just, you know, he's been in there forever, but no. I mean, talk about a great replacement, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, wow.
Or what about Iron Maiden, Bruce Dickinson?
Yeah, that's another guy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, talk about, like, these are like the best replacements that ever of all time. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, these guys really made the band and kept it going.
Well, if Bruce leaves, Iron Maiden, they'll be like, "Whoa, he started the band." It's like, no, he was a replacement. Yeah,
that's crazy. So what? I don't even remember. Is it the first album from the original guy?
On who? Which album?
The very first. I think it's Killers.
Mm-hmm. I believe so. Yep. Let's go, Maiden.
I'm just going off the top of my head. I don't know. Looking up anything.
Yeah. Wow. Discography of Iron Maiden.
Sorry.
There's just the typical Iron Maiden and then Killers. Was this the one with the? Can't really tell. Yeah, so first album had a guy named Paul Dianau, pronouncing that wrong. And then Killers had him again. Yeah. So no Bruce Dickinson, I think, until Number of the Beast. Where do you stand on that album? Yeah, Bruce Dickinson.
Would I stand on Bruce Dickinson?
Where do you stand on Number of the Beast?
Well, I mean, it's obviously one of the most respected albums that I think that they have, but is it one of my favorite? No.
Whoa, controversial topic.
Well, this is my personal opinion. You know, I mean, it's like, let me check this album. I mean, because it's been a long time since I've even looked at this stuff.
You heard it live, everyone.
Well, it's just music is a very personal thing, man.
No, it is. I get it.
It's
No,
it's a very like when I say
am
it's
with
not my
you.
favorite. I'm
I'm
not
with
saying
you.
it's better or worse.
Nah.
I don't. That has nothing to do with it. It's just
No, my favorite is Power Slave. So
yeah, because Power Slave is such a great album. I mean, that's let me pull up this discography on this thing because I need to look at Number of the Beast. Yeah, see, I love "Hallowed Be Thy Name." That's a great song. But "The Children of the Dam" is a great song too. Those
22.
two songs. Huh?
I like 22, Arcadia Avenue.
22. Yeah, that's another great song too. So yeah, that's not like great. But see, look at it's going up against. I mean, Peace of Mind, Power Slave, Somewhere. I mean, come on. I mean, I even like Fear of the Dark a lot.
Whoa.
I like Fear of the Dark. You know what? To be honest with you, then after that, I kind of lost track after that. Like after Fear of the Dark, I haven't really listened to much of the newer stuff.
Yeah, the X Factor, Virtual. What is that? 7.
I mean, there's one without Bruce left. I think for a little while. I think Virtual. This one of the I think it's Virtual. I think he's not even on this album. Yeah, it's Blaze Bailey or something. Yeah, he's not even on it.
Brave New Worlds, Dance.
He left for a little while.
Dance of the Dead.
You know what? I don't have a favorite Iron Maiden album. I just don't. I mean, I personally listen to Power Slave, like you said, Power Slave. It's Somewhere in Time probably more than all the other albums.
Oh yeah, Power Slave probably one of my top 5 album covers ever. It's so rad. First off, I'm a fan of Egypt stuff, and it's just to me this is so beautiful.
You know what's funny? It's like the theme of this band. Mm-hmm. It's like they're so good at theming themselves, dude, you know. And you know what's funny is that I read Slash's book, you know, from Guns N' Roses. He had when he put out his book, and he criticized them. He criticized their themes, like what is all this stuff, all the props? So he didn't like all that stuff. I mean, Guns N' Roses, they don't really use that stuff.
No,
you know, they don't use props and stuff like that on stage. So he didn't like that, dude. But I mean, I have always loved their theme. I love the ancient Egyptian thing, you know what I mean? And then they got Eddie. Then they have a mascot. Like that's another thing, dude. Bands don't even do mascots anymore. You know what I mean?
Yep.
They don't do it anymore. Like they bands for some reason that's another lost thing.
I'm trying to find that cool one that had the fusion of Power Slave and Somewhere in Time.
That's you gotta cool. See. I gotta bust out my my Iron Maiden figures, dude. I have those little the regular figures of Power Slave. I have Power Slave on that, like little, and it's got Eddie as a figure. Yeah.
Wow. So all right.
Yeah, I mean, Power Slave is a big one, bro. Even Seventh Son of the Seventh Son is a great album.
Seventh Son of the Seventh Son.
You just got done watching our first podcast of the Bruins Digest. My name is Joey. My partner's name is Josh. We got many things to come. We're going to be talking about album covers. We're going to be talking about bands. We're going to be talking about movies. We're going to be talking about all kinds of things. So, hope you enjoyed listening and consider subscribing to our channel. Stay tuned. Take care.